And I think is if you're sitting there and you think you're going to run this business the same way you ran it for the next 10 years, 15 years, it's not going to be there anymore. Like I know we're one of the older,
Yeah.
like our industry hasn't changed that much, but it's really starting to evolve really fast over the last 5 years. I mean, for 30, 40, 50 years, like it didn't change. Like it was the same shit. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
now there's people like me that are coming in and there's private equity and big money. It's going to change. And all of a sudden you're going to wake up and your phones aren't going to be ringing. And you're not going to have those customers that you thought were your customers for life are now going to somebody else because you didn't change and evolve. So I think that's really one thing I really try to tell the contractors, like, dude, like if you keep doing what you're doing, you think you're going to pass this on to your kids, it ain't going to happen, dude. This industry is going to get consolidated. Amazon's going to come in. It's going to completely change over the next 5 to 6 years. And if you don't go take advantage of it right now, if you're at 3 million, you need to get to fucking 15 million as fast as possible and try to get out of that business. And if you're thinking, like I said, these businesses have always been like build it and hand it off to your kids, dude. That's just not the reality of what's going to happen. And I've seen it like change so dramatically. Shit, just the cost of doing business now is so dramatically more expensive than it was 5 years ago that the small guy can't compete.
Yeah.
If you don't get better, you're going to get killed just on your margins. And almost every contractor I meet, and it's really sad to be honest, is I go through their financials and dude, almost every one of them are sub 5% net.
What's up, everybody? This episode is sponsored by ExitWise. If you're a business owner thinking about selling your company, whether that's now or years down the road, you need to know what your business is actually worth and how to maximize that exit. That's exactly what ExitWise does. They help you prepare, position, and ultimately sell your business by assembling a world-class team of M&A experts around you, guiding you from valuation all the way through closing. If you want to know what your business is really worth and how to increase that number before you sell, go check out exitwise.com and get ahead of it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Bible. I'm joined by the one and only Victor Rancour, who is the CEO of the Rocket Group. And Victor, I've been watching you on Facebook. And number one, I am not an HVAC guy. So, forgive me for not understanding that you're kind of a big deal in this space. And I'm excited to kind of hear more about that. You clearly speak at conferences and doing a lot of cool stuff. But you're also doing something really unique where you're kind of consolidating a lot of HVAC businesses and you're going nationwide. And so when I saw this, I was like, I got to reach out to this guy and have him on the pod. So, man, tell us about what you're doing at Rocket Group, man. Tell us about all the success you're having.
Yeah, so I mean, you did say in the beginning. So obviously, I'm the CEO of Rocket Group and Profit Rocket. So Profit Rocket, I started about 6 years ago. Me and my fiance and my brother started Profit Rocket in I think 2021 as a consulting group. So we started consulting home service contractors. At that time, I was running my own home service business out of California. And so we started training, mentoring, doing sales training, business coaching for contractors all over the country. And like you said, seeing us on stage, we used to throw big events, like 1,000 people events. We've had Rick Ross and Joe Montana and all these people that have come and, been at our events in the past. And we were in that business and we realized, about 2 years ago that business kind of sucks, right? Like as a consultant, you have no control of what the outcome is from the other side of the contractor. I can give them all the tools in the world, and
Yeah.
they're left on their own devices to actually follow through and do it. So through that I built a pretty massive network and big following in the social in the home service space. And from our Facebook group, we have a Profit Rocket home service group that's got 7,000 people in it, and then from there we have a massive network of people that have been to our events or worked with us or stuff in the past. And a couple years ago, me, my fiance, and my brother, we were like, hey, like, how do we obviously be more impactful for a business, right? We can give them all the stuff, but how do they get to do it? And we did our first deal in I think it was May of 2024. Was actually one of my clients. He's been a client with me. He came to my very first sales training. I started doing sales training in 2020 during COVID. I started throwing sales training events because that's my background. I got into HVAC 11 years ago as a technician. I answered a Craigslist ad to become a tech. I had no idea what HVAC even meant or stood for. I just know that they were going to give me they
I
said I
still
could make
don't,
at
by the
least
way. Just FYI, I still
heating,
don't.
ventilation, and air conditioning. But
I'm just
my
kidding.
but I'm in this. I go to this. I go to Craigslist and they had this job opening and it was like, hey, we're hiring an entry level technicians. You can make like 60 grand a year. You'll get benefits and you'll get you get to take your van home. And I'm like, dude, that sounds great. I was doing construction work. I was like a day laborer doing, doing masonry work and all kinds of random, construction stuff. And so I went to the interview for a company out in Southern California called Service Champions. And if anybody knows, they just sold for like $2.2 billion like a month ago or three
Wow.
weeks ago. But I got to go work at one of the best organizations in the country. And so that's really where I kind of cut my teeth and learned the trade. And the guy that ran that place is Leland Smith, and he invested a lot of time and energy and money into me to train me to become a good sales guy. And I very quickly became the number one salesman for HVAC in the country in like 2016, I think about a year in. And then I won that award a lot for a couple of years, and then eventually started my first business out of Southern California called Absolute Airflow. I started it from nothing. We grew it to 5 million year one, 12.5 million year two. And then we ended up exiting to private equity in 2023. So 4.5 year period, we took it from zero to over 60 million in revenue and exited that business. And along the way, I got to learn a lot of shit. So if you ever grown a business and grown it fast and, had to learn all the lessons, like I don't have a business degree. I know how to sell shit. I know how to motivate people. I know how to get people excited. I know how to recruit. Now, understanding the operation was not something that I do very well. So, I mean, we got to 12.5 million just off of pure hustle, right? But, I didn't understand the operations. I didn't understand the finance side. I didn't know how to read a P&L. I just looked at the top and looked at the bottom, and that's all I gave a shit about, right? And a lot of times the bottom always sucked because you're growing so fast. You don't understand cash flow. So I had to learn a lot of that stuff. And, I actually my fiance actually was one of the people that came in and was like, "Hey, Vic, you got to figure this shit out. You guys are way too big, and you guys are gonna, cash flow is gonna struggle." So she came in I think 2022, or not 2021, 2022, I think, like began, or yeah, it's 2021. And she started working with me in the business, and like I said, that's how we started Profit Rocket. She started coaching me, and I'm like, man, we can go coach other contractors. I'm great at sales, you're great at finance, and like all this stuff. And so that's how we started that. And then, yeah, then fast forward to 2 years ago, we did our first deal in a small little town. He was a client of mine. His name's Kevin Fiskor. And he's like, dude, he's like, I had a PE group that wants to buy my business for 400 grand. Right. I'm like, dude, fuck that. 400 grand. But after you pay taxes, everything you're not going to have enough money to do anything. You're going to have to go
Yeah.
right back to
Yeah.
work. And I said, well, how about we come in, we partner with you, and keep in mind he's in one of the smallest markets in the country, like as far as like population wise. He's up in northern Arizona, so it's 2.5, 2 hours from Phoenix, up in the middle of the desert. Like you drive out there, you're in the sticks. And so he's like, well, I can't recruit here, we can't grow here. Like I'm like, well, I mean, we'll figure it out, right? We went into that business, and very quickly it was about a $1.8 million business, not making much money. And we went in there and said, okay, let's put a new plan in place. Let's put our systems in place that I've been teaching for years. We put those in place, and little by little, very quickly, like I think 2 months in, we're at, $550,000 in a month. And he's like, what the fuck? And so I'm like, okay, we can do it in this market. And the biggest thing that I had to learn is like, how do you attract talent, right? How do you attract talent to a tiny little place that no one wants to move to, like in the middle of nowhere? And I think we did that really well. We grew that business. Last year we finished our first like real calendar year was a $12.5 million from a $2 million shop. And then very quickly, like this year right now, we're pacing for like 24, 25 million. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can do it here, right? This was kind of like, let's see what we can do. Like, let's see how I can recruit. Cause obviously running a business in your backyard is easy, right? Like I know people here, I can recruit people. I'm in this community. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot different than trying to go to another state that you don't know anybody and then trying to build a business, right? And so I wanted to see if I could
Yeah.
do it. And we use my network from social media and all that stuff to be able to recruit and fly people in. And I think one of the cool things, like we first did it, we're like, okay, how do we get people to move here? Well, how about we give them a free place to stay? Right. So we rented this nice house, and we flew these guys in, gave them free housing, free everything, like whatever it took to get them there. And that's really what kind of took off the business. All of a sudden, these guys came in, invigorated the sales, grew that. And then, like I said, we are where we are now. And then fast forward I think about a year later, we did our second deal. So we're about a year in, we've proven concept. People, and the guy that we ended up partnering with had saw what we did in this market. And he's like, well, I got a small little market in Alabama. You think you could do the same thing here? And I was like, I don't know, maybe like we can try. And obviously we went into Alabama, and that was like a 800,000 $1 million business. And we just finished our first calendar year this month. And I think we did like $5.8 million. So we went from a $1 million business to 5.8. We're pacing this year for like 11. So like I said, we started proving concept. And then about 6 months later, we said, okay, now I think we got the team now. I went and recruited some other people that I knew that could help us get to the next level. And I think we did 7 deals at the end of last year, and obviously scaled the platform pretty quickly.
This episode is brought to you by 10x Nerds. If you're a business owner doing real revenue, there's a good chance you're overpaying in areas you haven't even looked at. Things like credit card processing, insurance, telecom, and more. 10x Nerds comes in, audits your expenses across 30 plus categories, and finds immediate savings. And here's the kicker: they only get paid if they save you money. It's a complete no-brainer. If you want to keep more of what you make, go check them out at 10xnerds.com. This episode is brought to you by Rakowski Law Firm. If you're a business owner or have built a level of wealth, but you don't have your estate plan dialed in, you're exposed. Rakowski Law Firm helps families and business owners protect their assets, avoid probate, and make sure everything transfers exactly how it should. This isn't just paperwork, it's a real strategy to protect your legacy. If you haven't looked at your plan in a while or don't have one, go to rakowskilawfirm.com. So I'm an HVAC guy listening to this podcast. So obviously, like, it sounds like rocket fuel. Like, it literally sounds like you're putting things on, like, you're pouring gas on the fire. But am I rolling up under your brand, and like, am I letting go of my identity as a business owner? Like, tell me what that deal looks like.
No, so we structure them different. So private equity comes in, they're going to own majority share of the business. They're gonna run the whole show, right? And we come in opposite, like, hey, you've built something great so far. How do we expand on that, right? And I want you to have the upside. So when we come in, we normally do like a 50-50 partnership. Some we have higher equity depending on the condition of the business and cash, that if you need to put cash or whatever into it. But yeah, so like we usually come in 50-50 partners. We take their brand. They're still the head of the business. They're still the day-to-day. They're still the guy running the show. We come in and we implement everything. So we bring in an entire team. So I have a call center team that's training, recruiting, hiring. We have a sales trainer that's training them 5 days, training their staff 5 days a week. We have fractional GMs that come in and they're running the operations for them. And then my fiance, she's a CFO for the whole platform. So she's running all the financials, making sure we're hitting the numbers, the KPIs that we need to hit. And so we have like a whole team behind it that's coming in and implementing it, where you couldn't afford that team by yourself as a small contractor. Well, now you get access to a team that costs me, $1.5 million a year. You get access to all of them. They're going to come work inside your business.
Yeah,
And that's kind of how we scale it. And then obviously we have a recruiting team. We got a call center that we just built a whole outbound call center. So there's like a lot of like shared services that we bring in so we can cut down the cost and drive revenue fast. And, I was talking to one of my mentors and I kind of showed him some of our financials. He's like, those numbers aren't possible to hit. I was like, dude, these are fully audited financials and we're hitting a 26% net through the first quarter of the year. And he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, dude, we're able to cut the costs, get their prices where they need to be, put a system in place where the customers will pay more money because we provide better service, and we've been able to scale really fast.
That's incredible, man. So there's obviously a pretty big vision for this organization. Like, where are you trying to take this in 3, 5, 10 years?
10 years I'll be living on an island somewhere and no one will ever see me again. But I think, our goal, yeah, dude, I've been doing, so I started my entire like business from social media. So I've been on social media posting videos, and I mean, my very first video was a live video talking about me launching my business. And that's where people followed me from that. So I'm like, I want to be as far away from that as possible, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think, our goal this year, our goal is to hit 100 million this year. So we'll have our first $100 million year, and then going into next year, about $250 million. And then, our goal is to, hopefully within the next 3 years, sell off to private equity. There's a lot of work that's going to go on between then and now to try to make sure that all the businesses are systemized, running the same way, same software, same processes, all that stuff is really what we hammer home. And then, hopefully, I don't know if you've seen the Guild garage door deal that just got done. But they kind of did something similar, did a roll up. They had about 30 companies. They just sold it to a PE firm for like $800 and something million after 3 years. So kind of the same kind of trajectory.
And then if I'm Hathaway heating, HVAC here in Colorado, is the benefit to me also that I get a bump too in 3 years. We sell for a higher number, and we're all living on separate islands together or individually or whatever.
Yeah, so that's the goal. I mean, obviously you put more companies together, more EBITDA together, you're going to get that higher multiple. I think Guild Garage Doors got an 18x, where if you go build your business for the next 10 years and you stumble upon and maybe you get to 10 million bucks, and then maybe you're selling for 8 to 10x at the most. Where, obviously you partner with us, we're going to scale faster, more profitable. Obviously, you have all the shared services, cut your cost. And then all of a sudden now we go to market. Now you're selling as a group, and now you're getting 18x rather than what you would have got like a smaller multiple by yourself. And then you also would have been stuck in that smaller size business too.
This episode is brought to you by Pierre Tax and Accounting, led by CPA Eric Pierre, a seasoned accounting and tax expert with years of experience helping individuals and businesses navigate complex financial landscapes. Whether you need personal tax planning, business tax strategy, bookkeeping, or financial planning support, Eric and his team are committed to helping you protect and grow your financial future with clarity and confidence. To get expert guidance you can trust, check out Pierre Tax and Accounting at pierreaccounting.com. This episode is brought to you by my friend Silas Lagoy over at ForgeMark Wealth. If you're a high-income business owner or professional and feel like you're getting crushed by taxes, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. ForgeMark Wealth specializes in advanced legal tax strategies and wealth planning designed to help you keep more of what you make, grow it efficiently, and actually build long-term freedom, not just income. If you're making serious money but don't have a real strategy behind it yet, I highly recommend connecting with Silas and his team. What are the few things that you really, so you obviously implement a back office team, you implement an executive team. What are like the main 2 to 3 to 5 things that you're doing with a business when you go in and make them a part of your organization?
I mean, the first thing is how do we answer the phones? How do we run our calls? How do we install it? How do we collect our money? Right? Like those are like the main things. Like any home service business, those are the main things. How are we doing that currently? Do we have a VoIP system? Do we have tracking? Do we have service titans? Like so like the main figuring out like how are we answering the phone? Because that's the key to everything is the phone room, right? If your phone room is messed up, if you're not answering your phones, there's going to voicemail, all that shit, that's gonna be messed up. We got to fix that. Next is saying, okay, now we have to implement a in-home process. Like how do we run a call? How do we show up? What are the questions we're asking? Like the entire in-home process is which that's really how it allows us to scale. And then how are we getting our avatar customer? How are we getting the right customer? Because, you see all these people online and they're posting about, I'm getting $43 leads off of Facebook. And I'm like, okay, good luck. You're going to go out of business because what happens is that cheap lead isn't your avatar customer. They got bad credit. They're not a high intent customer. So you're not going to be as successful. You're going to have lower margins. So how do we get customers that are going to spend more money with us, tell more people, and obviously grow the brand? So bringing in our marketing stuff, and I just finished writing a book on marketing for home service companies and how to grow your organic from your digital marketing all the way to your guerrilla marketing, hand to hand combat stuff. That's my first book called Brick by Brick. So we just released that about a week ago. And I literally took everything in my brain and put it in a book for contractors to really help them scale their business through their marketing. And how do we go compete with that 800-pound gorilla, right? How do we go compete with private equity? I gave them a playbook on that. So we implement the marketing, implement the phone room, implement the sales processes. And then the next thing is how do I cut cost, right? Because obviously the cost of building has gone like exponential since 2020. It's probably like up like 5 or 6x from where it was. Like a piece of HVAC equipment when I first started was $1,400. Now, if you're by yourself, you're a small contractor, you're paying 5 or 6 grand for that same piece of equipment. Well, I have partnerships and we were at such a large scale, we can cut your costs down, sometimes 20, 30, 40%, depending on what you're buying at. So cut the cost, answer the phones right, run a call process, do the right market to the right people, and then cut the cost of doing business.
I love that. What are some of the challenges that you guys are facing? You're growing really fast. So like what are some of the, anytime you have exponential growth, it can cause problems. Like what are some of the challenges you guys are facing?
Obviously the number one thing is always going to be talent acquisition. So, getting enough people in the seats, getting enough vehicles quickly. Right now we're just getting ready to open up our corporate headquarters, which is going to allow me to have more in-person contact with the employees and be able to work with them on the people on my team. So I think the biggest thing is because we're spread, we're all the way from California all the way to Delaware, right? So like,
Yeah.
understanding how to zone these things out, time zones, and really just right now it's logistics is building it all out, and then trying to recruit an executive team that can travel and be on staff. So I think that's our bottleneck right now. So like I said, we did one deal the first year, then we did 2 deals, then all of a sudden we did like we did seven, I think 7 deals at the end of last year. So we did those 7 deals. I'm like, hey, we're done for a while. Let's wait 6, 7 months and
Yeah.
then like get these ones in place.
Yeah.
So like we just brought on 2 new companies this week, for the first time in like 5 or 6 months. We added some more companies. So
Wow.
it's just really making sure that, we want to grow fast, but we also like, we know that even if I don't grow fast, I can grow those. I don't need to add any more companies. I can still do a shit ton of revenue with the ones that we have. So making sure they're dialed in first and then going and adding more people to the staff and scaling that way.
Yeah. So walk me through your ideal client. I mean, is it a $3 million guy, $10 million? Is it all over the place? Is there any sort of consistency?
Yeah, we try to our sweet spot's anywhere between like the 1.5 to $4 million company. Maybe they've been in business for 10 years and they can't get past 3 million or 4 million, or they've watched their revenue go up and their profitability hasn't been there. So I would say most of the companies that where it's almost like bar rescue for home service companies, right? Have you ever seen that show? And
Yeah.
so like, yeah, you got a business, but it's not making you money and you're miserable and you're ready to fucking your head running your head into the wall every day, and you don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I think with our group, it allows you to do what you're good at, which is, HVAC, right? Right now you're trying to do HVAC and run a business, but you have no idea how to run a business. So we come in and
Right.
we say, hey, these are things you do. So you're not having to have to go through, you don't have to question or second guess. You got an entire team that's helping you make the decisions. So yeah, anywhere between the one and a half is kind of small for us now. We're probably closer to like the $3 to $4 million, kind of where we our starting point. Just because we know at 3 million, at least they have a team in place, they have a system, they have an office. If you don't have an office, I'm not gonna go partner with a startup, right? That's how I look at it, it's a startup. But if you got an office, you got a decent customer base, you're just having trouble, you can't get, you're plateauing. That's the kind of company we want to work with.
I love that. I love that. How do I if I'm listening, how do I find out more information? What would be my next step if I wanted to inquire?
I mean, obviously the first thing is, join my Facebook group and just kind of see what we're all about, right? Like, and people, I think they get a little bit different, like, feeling from me. Like, even on these things, I come off like almost like too, like, I have ADHD, so I talk real fast and I'm just like, that's how I operate. But like, really see what we're about, man. I've been helping contractors for a long time now, and I really give a shit. And so, join our Facebook group, just the Profit Rocket Home Service group. Get in the network, see what we're about. Come out to one of our masterminds. We do a mastermind every quarter. We try to make them as affordable as possible. Usually under $500 to come out. I put some of the best guys in the room. We share all of our stuff with you, kind of see what we're about. And then from there, we usually start a relationship. So like, I don't just go meet a guy and he applies on my website and I'm gonna go buy his company. Like, I want to build a relationship because I have a belief that if I don't want to drink a beer with you, I don't want to partner with you, right? If I can't hang out with you, this is a relationship, right? Like, if I'm going to get into a relationship, it's got to be someone I actually want to hang out with and work with every day, and deal with. And so that's usually how it kind of starts. Starts from there. We also have our online training platform. So like, a lot of the companies we partnered with originally came in from Profit Rocket, our training company. They started implementing some of our systems already, so they already understand what we're going to do, and then we just kind of put gas on it when we come in and partner. So I think that'd be the best way. If you want to see what we do, you can go to rocketgroupholdings.com. That's our website. You can kind of, we're doing the website right now. It really kind of tells you what we do, some of the companies that we're partnered in. I always make sure that before we do any deal, they talk to my other partners, see what it's about. Because like I said, it's not a magic
Yeah.
pill. If making money was fucking easy, everybody would do it. And so you got to come and see what these guys, they think, if they come in, they think they're going to work less. And yet in reality, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked, but you're actually going to have an outcome that you want at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. You're a very excitable guy, man. What are some anything we haven't talked about that gets you fired up? You obviously have a lot going on.
Yeah, honestly, like, I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is like, is the opportunity, and I think a lot of guys are not realizing how short of a runway that we really have right now with the private equity in the space. And everybody's like, private equity's bad and all these things. Is like, no, dude, this is a chance for you to change your family's life forever. And you need to wake the fuck
Yeah.
up, because between AI and the private equity and all, these guys are smart, they're sophisticated, and they're going to get to the point where they're not going to pay those multiples, so they don't need to. They're going to figure out how to replace our ass, right? And I think is, if you're sitting there and you think you're going to run this business the same way you ran it for the next 10 years, 15 years, it's not going to be there anymore. Like, I know we're one of the older,
Yeah.
like, our industry hasn't changed that much, but it's really starting to evolve really fast over the last 5 years. I mean, for 30, 40, 50 years, like, it didn't change. Like, it was the same shit. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
now there's people like me that are coming in, and there's private equity and big money. It's going to change. And all of a sudden you're going to wake up and your phones aren't going to be ringing. And you're not going to have those customers that you thought were your customers for life are now going to somebody else because you didn't change and evolve. So I think that's really one thing I really try to tell the contractors, like, dude, like, if you keep doing what you're doing, you think you're going to pass this on to your kids. It ain't gonna happen, dude. This industry is gonna get consolidated. Amazon's gonna come in. It's gonna completely change over the next 5 to 6 years. And if you don't go take advantage of it right now, if you're at 3 million, you need to get to fucking 15 million as fast as possible and try to get out of that business. And if you're thinking, like I said, these businesses have always been like, build it and hand it off to your kids, dude. That's just not the reality of what's gonna happen. And I've seen it, like, changed so dramatically. Shit, just the cost of doing business now is so dramatically more expensive than it was 5 years ago that the small guy can't compete.
Yeah.
He can't. If you don't get better, you're going to get killed just on your margins. And almost every contractor I meet, and it's really sad to be honest, is I go through their financials and dude, almost every one of them are sub 5% net. Like I'm talking $10 million shops, $15 million shops. I was talking to a $19 million shop the other day. Doing $19 million, he's making 3% net. That's really negative cash flow. And so like it's these guys, if they don't change and evolve, you're gonna get left out and it's only gonna get worse for you. So I don't care if you partner with me or do something, but you gotta change and you have to look at this as an opportunity and not be negative on private equity. On just say, hey, yeah, private equity comes in. I don't care what they do to my business when I leave, but they're gonna give me a big ass check. And I think you have to get that mindset right and understand that, yeah, some of these guys, their business is so tied to their identity that they just can't imagine selling it. But like, dude, you can't be married to that business right now. You have to go take the opportunity before you get ran over.
Well, and that's a really great. And so I'm in the heart of private equity in Denver. Like I can throw a rock and I hit a private equity firm. That's how many freaking PE firms there are around here. You alluded to something that I wanted to double click on. Like, what do you mean they're going to potentially figure out a way to replace you? Do you think robots, AI? Like, what do you mean when you say that?
I mean, obviously, right now the hard thing, the one thing that the small guy can compete on, right, is he doesn't have as much overhead. He doesn't have as much expenses, so he can be lower on cost, right?
Yeah.
Well, your costs of that size are going to keep going up. These guys are figuring out a way to cut costs dramatically. So now they can sell the same at the same price as you, right? The same unit, same price, and they're going to get a big company. Who are they going to go with? They're going to go with the company
Yeah.
that's going to back them up and be there, and it's got the money to back them up. So what's happening is that they're getting super sophisticated and cutting overhead costs to where they can operate at a lower at the same margin with lower costs to the consumer. And the lower that cost gets, the more it's going to push that smaller guy out. And it's just the reality. And also, when PE first got in here, they didn't know how to run these businesses. They relied on us, the contractor, to know how to run the business, right? Well, now they do. You think they're not sophisticated now? There's billions and billions of dollars that these companies are getting bought for. They have some of the smartest, best minds in the country, and they've learned all the stuff that we do to actually be successful. Now they're implementing it without having to have the contractor involved, and that's why you're seeing
Yeah.
their companies like Apex. Apex comes in; they're the biggest player in the game. They just buy the whole company. They just say, "Here you go. Here's a check. See you later. We don't need you, and we can go implement we can go get
Mm.
a staff sergeant from the Marines. We'll teach him the process. He'll follow it to a T, and we don't need a contractor anymore." And then they're going to try
Mm.
to figure out how to cut out the sales team. They're going to try to cut out all the stuff to where it's going to be a direct to consumer, just install, sell, install, sell, install. And that's what's really going to happen over the next couple of years. And I've already seen it dramatically change, like as far as online buying and all that stuff, to where like we don't
Yeah.
need the sales team, we don't need all this. All we need is an install team and a guy that can go back and fix warranties.
What if I'm as an HVAC guy, how would you be implementing AI? I know you probably have a broad view of how it's shaping the industry. Obviously, there's been a huge gold rush with AI. You know, how are you seeing business and how are you guys implementing it at the Rocket Group?
So, I mean, obviously, I don't think AI is at a point where it replaces humans. It allows you to use them in different aspects of the business. So, like for obviously from a call center standpoint, right? You used to have at a large scale, you'd have 20, 30 call center reps, right? I was just up at my buddy Aaron Gaynor. He's got a company called Eco Plumbers, $180 million a year business, right? They just built out this new facility, and he's like, dude, before I had to have 60 call center reps. We're thinking we're only going to have five for 180 million just off AI base. So they're going to be obviously answering the phones, the in-home sales process of things like Rilla and stuff like that are really understanding and learning the nuances of inside the home. And that's what they're recording. They're recording the conversations so that they can figure out a way to start having those same conversations via AI. So obviously I think cutting out the sales guy, which is, sometimes it's 10% of your entire revenue, right? That's a lot of money to cut out. And they're trying to figure it out immediately because then they can cut lower the cost of the consumer, sell more deals, still make the same amount of money. Obviously, we use AI in a lot of different aspects. I guess I mean from even from my accounting team. Like before, you used to have a big accounting team. Like my payroll's done with. We just signed up with a company called Volca that took my payroll down from 5 days to 15 seconds. Okay, done, right? And so stuff like that, where they can implement that stuff and eliminate all those costs, and then obviously pass it on to the consumer, or stay at the same price and make even more margin. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of different ways to implement it. I'd be weary about a lot of AI because a lot of guys they promise the world and they say all these things, but it's like really you have to vet whoever you bring in. Like I think that's the one thing that we do really well is like we throw our events. I will not promote a single freaking thing that I don't use myself because I obviously I don't want to put my name behind something that doesn't work. But like we try
Yeah.
to take new technology hey, we see it. If it works, boom, let's integrate it. And obviously, if it stops working, we cut it. And so many people, they get into these softwares, they think the software is going to save their business, and it doesn't because they didn't actually implement it properly.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, I think that's a great word. It's been there's been like a gold rush, and then there's almost been like a suck back with the AI thing. Like everybody went in, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a sec, this AI receptionist isn't as good as I thought it would be. There's kind of been this pullback
Yeah,
in
there
the
there
market,
has
I
to be
think.
checks and there has to be checks and balances, right? So you still have to have the human interaction, the human piece of it, right? And like I'm not trying to use AI for every damn phone call that comes in. I don't think it's there yet. But for the most part, it does just as well as my CSRs. But you also have to have someone backing it up, right? So instead of having 30 reps, you have five. The five reps are going to back up. There's some kind of thing that happens with the AI, or the customer's pissed off, or someone has to intervene. But it just reduces the amount of people that you need on it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, Victor, just real quick, I just want to make sure people know where to go. So, if people want to learn more about Rocket Group, where can they go to learn more?
If you're looking obviously to get some coaching and not looking to join a group or join a platform, go to callprofitrocket.com. We have a great tool called the Business Blueprint, where I took everything I know about business, all of our SOPs, processes, systems, all the videos. I have like 700 videos in there. You can go buy our online training platform. It's very affordable. I try to make it cheap for contractors to buy that. And if you're looking to say, hey, I want to partner with you, I'm struggling, I'm running my head into a wall. I need someone to help me. Go to Rocket Group Holdings .com, and you can apply there. We can kind of go and take a deep dive into your business, see if it's something that makes sense. And I always say that if you jump on the call, we'll at least give you ideas of things you can do to improve right away. I could take a look at your financials in 5 seconds and know exactly where your pain points are in the business and what you need to go focus on. So even if you jump on a call with us, it's kind of a free consulting call, usually 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. We'll go through your business, kind of identify things that we think we can help with or things that you need to work on. And obviously, if you partner with us, that's great. If not, at least you leave with a little bit more information than you knew.
I love that, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Everybody go check out Victor's stuff. I love the coaching. I love the partnership. I love the vision, man. And it's just like following you on Facebook, which is how I found you. Like, I'm fired up, and I'm not even an HVAC guy. I'm like, dude, I want to just do what this guy's doing. I want to be on, part of what he's building. So it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so exciting, man.
And
And we
also,
wish you the best of
also
luck.
I would say go out, and if you guys haven't bought my new book yet, Brick by Brick, I'm telling you, it's the best $25 investment you'll make. You're literally everything I've learned about how to market these home service companies over the last decade is all in one book. It's $25. I'm telling you, that book, you read through it, you follow what I put in there. I made it so simple, literally a step by step on how to scale your home service company through marketing. Buy the book, kind of check it out, give me some feedback on that. But you can buy that at our website at callprofitrocket.com. Probably by the time this airs, you can buy it on Amazon as well, and Kindle and all that stuff. But yeah, check out the book. I think is at the lowest barrier of entry where you're going to get the fastest return on anything.
I love that, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Don't go anywhere because I want to keep talking, but thanks for coming on the podcast.
Cool. Thanks for having me.